And
You
you need to record.
Okay, excellent.
Got it.
So got a full agenda as usual. I think hopefully everybody now has the minutes that they're reviewing from the May meeting, which seemed like a week ago.
I just resent them and the agenda. And quickly, Jen, if you could update your name to say your full name, that would be great.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. How do I actually do that?
Do you have the participant list on the right side of your screen?
I see speaker view on the right.
Or on the bottom, do you see a button that says participant?
Now I see it.
And then it's like, you can right click or there's a little arrow.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Nope, you're good.
Yeah, I officially changed my name for all Zoom business or unrelated to Recreation Commission for the chair, the chair breakfast. Let me know when everybody's had a chance to review it and any questions or edits. They look good to me.
I just have a question. So the mystery of the appointment times looks like I've expired. Can you explain that again to me? That you have to wait till the town meeting to?
So you officially accepted somebody who had stepped down's position.
Okay.
I wasn't so aware of this till Jeremy sent it out, and then that position expired in May. But because of everything that is happening, all the positions are carrying over till town meeting.
Okay.
And we certainly would love to have you on board for another term if that's something that you want to do. But we'll chat that offline from here, I think, depending on what else you got going on in the queues. And
Yeah, I had no idea it was a short-term thing. We'll take it offline.
yeah, I didn't know either. I thought for sure you were going to be the 3 years, and then he sent out an update and said May 2020. And Peter Hunter emailed me. He was like, "That's got to be wrong." And I called him up, and they were like, "No, he filled." Jack Carlton was on the commission and left in the middle of the term, so you just filled the rest of his role, I guess, is how they played it out.
Okay, I'll keep coming to the meetings.
First in, first out type of thing, I guess. Whatever. It won't be a problem. I'm sure you won't be an issue. Good. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any comments.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the May 26, 2020 minutes.
Second him.
Second, all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right.
No, anybody against? No. So it's a unanimous. Let's see, public input. Apparently there is no public here, so we have a second shot at it if someone jumps in after. We just reviewed the terms, so I don't think there's anything to discuss there. Department updates, Ryan?
Good. So in the last meeting, we left is what we really wanted to do today was kind of lay out what our reopen plans are to you guys to be able to get some good input. They're going to be adjusting and changing as we go along throughout here, but it's good to really have some outsiders view of it. And not that rec commission members are outsiders, but you haven't been in our conversations going on as we're playing this out. And a lot of things we put out and we say, oh, that makes complete sense. And then maybe you're looking at it and viewing it and hearing it differently. And we'd love to hear that and get that input from you. So just regarding programming, we've canceled a lot of programming. We've communicated that out to people, but we're running a good solid core of programming. So starting this Saturday, the White Pond Beach opens for operation. Starting June 29th, our core summer camp, which is the Assabet and Sudbury River summer camps, which is grades K through 6, and the Kaleidoscope camp, which is the preschool camp that takes place at Harvey Wheeler, will operate. And when phase 3 opens with fitness centers and facilities like that, BD Center will be planning to open approximately to that date. So those will be the major components of what we're operating for the summer. The small little camps have been canceled. The special events have been canceled. The small little one-hit programs have been canceled in between, just because our resources really have had to be focused, hyper-focused on going through the guidelines given out from the state to make sure that we can operate these things to the best of our ability to what those guidelines are in a good, safe environment. To those guidelines, when each of the phases opened up, we received guidelines from the state. They're available on the state websites. And so there's guidelines for public parks and public spaces. And so we put those in play. There's guidelines for youth sports. So I'm working with Concord Carlisle youth baseball and youth soccer on how to get them back into operation and what they can do. There's guidelines for public beaches. So White Pond falls into that. Guidelines for public pools. So the Emerson Pool will fall into that. That will be operating for the summer camp. Guidelines for summer camp still. We're looking forward to the guidelines for fitness facilities. Those guidelines cover everything from the basic. They all start with pretty much the Baker-Polito administration saying that face masks must be worn and social distancing must be practiced. And that's really kind of the starting point for all of those guidelines. And then they go into quite some detail. And, you know, we'll kind of break through each of our programs and how we're operating. I'll, for the most part, manage talking through White Pond. Anna will, for the most part, talk through summer camps. Anna and myself will talk through the visitor center. Andy will talk through Beatty. And I will talk through about the parks and youth sports also incorporated in that. So because summer camps is up, number one, Anna, you want to take the first gun here?
Sure. So like Ryan said, we're planning to run Camp 3 Rivers, which is our K-6 program. We did cancel our Trekkers Teen Camp, which is for 7th and 8th grade. That program's foundation was field trips, and the state's not allowing field trips. So we didn't see a way to help keep those kids entertained. But we are going to open camp on June 29th. We've been working really closely with the superintendent as we're using 2 school facilities to spread the kids out. And we've also been working closely with the Board of Health and other organizations in the state that are running camps to understand best ways to do drop-off pickup, you know, separating groups so they don't come together. So if anyone has any specific questions about pieces of like how the camp day is going to run, I'm happy to answer those. We're taking 10 kids per grade right now. So it's a significantly smaller group than in summers past when we would take 20 to 25 kids per grade. But the 10 kids per grade group are full for pretty much the full summer. So we're the only circus in town. All the other camps in Concord have canceled, and a lot of the surrounding communities have also canceled. So we're continually hearing from the community that they're just so grateful that we're running what we're running, even if we had to adjust times and, you know, ages and things like that. So we've received a lot of positive feedback, not a lot of worried emails from parents, which I was really surprised about. There certainly have been parents that have withdrawn, but not with any sort of complaint. So we're feeling optimistic. We have our Board of Health, part of our Board of Health inspection on Monday, which will allow us to officially move forward, and we're confident that everything will be fine.
So
Go ahead, Peter.
was it the first come, first served basis, Anna?
Yeah, registration opened in February, and we never closed registration until these regulations came out. So we were allowing up to 25 kids per grade. So if we do have a grade that had that many kids registered, we're making 2 groups. And if necessary, we're shifting a kid or 2 up a grade or down a grade, depending on where there were spots. So we didn't have to kick anybody out that was registered, which was really good. We were nervous that we were going to have to turn people away after they thought they had a spot.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And have you gone through the numbers in terms of, do you have an idea of their, the revenues from the camp memberships and the costs for, you know, counselors, and kind of get a sense of how things are going to run?
Yeah, so honestly, in the last week and a half, I haven't updated my chart. I've just been focused on some other stuff. But last we looked, we were at about 50% of our revenue goal. And we were down in our staffing expenses by about 30%. We didn't bring on as many specialists as we usually bring on. We're not bringing on one of our leadership inclusion staff members. So we were able to save in some large positions where we then did add a couple extra counselors since we have to have more groups. So I'll get those numbers updated and get them sent out. But our capacity was looking pretty good. We granted 50%, but we were worried it was going to be less.
Right. So even though your counselor's reduction is not as much as 50%, you'll probably still be close to break even. Would that be a good estimate?
I don't know about break even. We've spent a lot of extra money on like PPE and some other things, but then simultaneously we canceled all field trips. So I don't know if it'll be break even necessarily, but it's not going to be a complete loss or anything
Right.
like that. We're still focusing on being cost effective with our supplies and everything like that. So I think that it'll look good. And Ryan, you must have pulled admin numbers. Did you
Yeah, I think we'll actually be better than break even. The cost of those field trips are very, very high. And we're not running any field trips in there. Anna, what are the total numbers that you have between K through 6 per week?
like what we can take or what we have?
How many we have? So I want to.
I don't have the numbers from today, but if all of our groups were filled, that would be about 90 kindergarten's got 2 groups, so 100 kids.
Yeah. And we're typically doing in that camp about 150 kids.
Yeah, 150 some weeks, 175-ish.
So
I have a couple of questions. First, I want to give you a tremendous amount of credit, just the hard work and guts for opening up in the face of guidelines and uncertainty. It's a tremendous achievement. As far as the guidelines, so you're going to set up according to the guidelines. Does the state inspect the guidelines? Is there an auditing throughout the summer? How do you maintain those guidelines?
So the state doesn't come in and do any sort of formal like COVID preparedness inspection. The Board of Health in some capacity can look at those sorts of plans and make recommendations, but even the Board of Health has told us that their focus is on the regular camp code and the regular camp requirements. So they're not necessarily looking right at our COVID plans, but the state is very blatant about you must follow these plans if you plan to open, and presumably if you opened and didn't have those plans in place and something happened, there would be repercussions because CDC and everybody gets involved as if COVID cases do come up.
Yeah, what Board of Health told us, Paul, was that you have to have a COVID plan. You have to publicize that COVID plan to your participants. And then for the most part, participants are going to be reporting if they believe someone isn't following their COVID plan. And the Board of Health is literally going to take the complaint, open it up and look and say, okay, here's your COVID plan. You said you were going to do this. This person says you're doing that or not doing that. And how does that play out? So that is really what it is. And again, it's very gray because it's guidelines versus mandates. We've for the most part carried them as mandates because, I think that's, why leave a gray area in between there? I think some people are saying, this way or that way, but we use those guidelines as that's how we're going to make our decisions. Then that's going to make it easier for us. But that's our understanding from our local Board of Health is that you need to have the COVID-19 plan, you need to publicize your COVID-19 plan to your participants. And for the most part, they're anticipating that calls would go either to the state or local level Board of Health of people complaining that, Concord Recreation isn't, a COVID-19 friendly location. And well, what's the issue? Well, the kids aren't wearing masks when they're out in the playgrounds. So they'll put up the COVID-19 plan and they're going to see if we say that kids are supposed to be wearing the mask when they're on the playground. And that's how
it's going to be an interesting summer.
Yeah.
Is this just outdoors? Rain or shine? What is the?
We're at 3 facilities. So Emerson, the Hunt Gym, our office, will host the kindergarten, and we'll have 2 to 3 groups here. So that would be 20 to 30 kids total, so that we can house them indoors and safely distanced and separated. Alcott School is grades 1 and 2. And we'll have 4 or 5 groups there, which is 40 to 50 kids. And we have 5 classrooms there. So we'll have the ability to spread those 10 kids into each classroom if it's a rain situation. But And then at the high school, we were fortunate. We pretty much got the whole third floor of the high school. They were great to us there. That's grades 3 through 6. That's going to be roughly 40 to 50 kids as well. So 4 or 5 groups, and they each would have their own classroom spacing. Certainly, I think what we're looking at for programming is to be outdoors as much as we can.
Sure.
The advantage of our 3 indoor locations, they're all air conditioned. So if kids are wearing masks indoors in those situations, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable to be able to do so. So, you know, we're more often than not, camps aren't in an air conditioned location. So I think when we're indoors and we have to wear the mask, it will at least be, not that it's going to be easy to have kids to have masks on, but it's going to be a little more easier and more comfortable for them to do so.
So the guidelines are just masks, just indoors, no masks outdoors, or is it optional?
Guidelines are mask when social distancing isn't possible.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Does the state provide any guidance on what to do if there's a COVID positive student or instructor or nurse that needs to close for a week and then possible, you know, lost revenue or what's the approach?
Do you want it, Ann, or you want me to take it?
So the state does have all those sorts of requirements that you have to have a plan in place. They don't necessarily tell you how to do it, but there are specifics if a child is diagnosed with a COVID positive test versus if that child's parent was diagnosed with a COVID positive test. So it depends on is symptomatic or positive person. So if it's the parent of a child, then that child has to quarantine, can't come back to camp. The group is notified, but the group can continue to run. If it's the child that gets the positive test, either then or at a later date, then again, the whole group is notified and the whole group would quarantine. We'd close that cohort, clean that space, and move forward from there. So it kind of depends on the distance from the
It might
camp.
be good, you know, for the commission to just have a copy of those rules, just so that we know, you know, if we're asked by people around, you know, what we're doing, so that we can just have them. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, you guys are, you know, leading the pack in the town, obviously, and doing this is great. I think it's a great service to the town. There are definitely parents that are probably very appreciative of you guys opening up and doing what you're doing. And yeah, I would not be surprised if it's a great success, and that's good news.
Just the other thing I just wanted to throw in, we hired an additional nurse. We're not required to have a nurse, but we've always had a nurse. And then we hired a second nurse for the summer. We thought that would be a very beneficial position for us. So we'll have 2 on staff for this summer. And we really talked about Aspet River Camp, but we're also running the Kaleidoscope Camp, which is over at Harvey Wheeler, which is for the preschoolers. And that would be 10 individuals following very similar practices as we're talking about here at the other camps. Just as some FYIs that I think the commission need to know type of things. We can't share spaces. So when we're on the Emerson playground, we have to have the Emerson playground closed to camp. So the Emerson playground Monday through Friday will be closed until camp is done at 4 o'clock. So definitely I could see the public not loving that. If you show up with your family and you're ready to come out and use the Emerson playground, where we've always shared it with them before in the past. But the guidelines are strictly written that we cannot be sharing spaces. Additionally, the Hunt building is closed during the summer camp operation. And typically the public comes in and uses the restrooms at the Hunt building. We did go out and rented 3 porta potties to put right outside the Hunt building so that they'll be available to the public to use, because we knew they'll be knocking on the door. You come with your family, you have to use the facilities. You're used to using the facilities. You get there and we're telling you, no, you can't. And Jen's there with her 3-year-old on the playground. And by the time you're going to the facilities, that's when you need the facilities, right? And so it's, so we did at least put the 3 porta potties out front there. So there'll be some challenges, I think, with the public where they're used to and comfortable with doing certain things that either summer camp has put it in a different situation, or just the COVID responses have put things in a different situation for individuals.
Is there additional insurance in any of this that, for the camp, for the individuals, just normal liability insurance, whatever that is?
Yeah, no, we've been following through with our local state Park and Rec Association, and then most of the Massachusetts municipalities are all self-insured through MIA, which is Massachusetts, I don't even know what it stands for, Insurance Association, whatever it represents all of the towns kind of self-insured and coming in. So they're all kind of in the same boat, the ones that are doing it, but there hasn't been any talk about additional insurance for it.
What about specific waivers? Did you have to execute, does everybody have to execute one of those before they can go to camp, or is it just your standard liability waiver?
They had us add a waiver yesterday, was it?
Yes.
So yeah, people are signing a special waiver now on our Camp Docs program. And there's also additional new waivers, like we have to have permission to use hand sanitizer and things like that. So those are all added and out there for anyone that's registered.
Do you screen the students every morning, like just quickly take their temperature or?
Yep. So the way that we'll do it, if you envision pulling into the Alcott school, all the cars will pull up. They'll be stopped near that first small parking lot on the right. 4 or 5 cars will be allowed to pull up at one time. Parents remain in the vehicle with their campers, and everybody has to put a mask on that's in the car. One of our site supervisors will walk over to the driver's side window, and once they confirm that masks are on, the parent puts the window down. We ask if the parent did an at-home screening, which we send out to them before they arrived at camp. They say yes. Then we go through the screening with them. They confirm that they don't have any of the symptoms and their kids don't have the symptoms. They sign a form saying they don't have the symptoms. Then we take that form, the child lets themselves hopefully out of the car, and we escort them to a check-in tent. At the check-in tent, they get a visual observation by another staff person. They get hand sanitizer pumps, and we digitally sign them in, and then they're escorted to their group. They initially did have us doing temperature screenings, and then thankfully updated the regulations so we didn't have to do that.
That's every day.
Every day.
Wow.
Yep. And if kids do have a visual at the observation table, if they're like sweaty or fevery or anything like that, they get taken to the nurse's tent where she does an examination and either tells them to go home or allows them to come into camp. It'll be a slower morning. We've staggered drop-off times. That's important to note too, because parents have kids at all 3 sites. So we're giving ourselves a half hour at each site to get the kids dropped off. So the little kids, Hunt and Alcott, get dropped off between 8:30 a.m. and the kids at the high school are 8:30 to 9 a.m. And then on the pickup time, we had to adjust. So the little kids get picked up between 3:30 and 4, and the older kids get picked up between 4 and 4:30.
So is the pool going to be used by only one group, or what's the?
Yep, at a time. So each cohort will make their way to the pool, hopefully a couple times a week. So that's a max of 10 kids in the pool. They have to keep socially distanced in the pool. So that's a challenge that we're working out, but we're hopeful that all groups will make it to the pool. They're just going to walk from the sites.
The pool in the past has been open on weekends for public use, and that's not happening. We're just open, the pool's just open for summer camp this year. We would certainly hope to get back to that again in the future, but again, just on managing through things, how we were going to manage Emerson Pool and White Pond and all that happening simultaneously was just starting to grow on us. And so we just made a decision to not open the Emerson Pool operation in the summer because the numbers are on the smaller part and focus our efforts on White Pond there. So the Emerson Pool is only open for the summer camp this year. Yeah, did you say that AM, PM is canceled?
I'm not sure, but AM and PM is canceled. We couldn't figure out how to keep the cohorts separate since you can't guarantee who's going to be at drop AM or PM. So that was ultimately going to mean that we would have to have our staff there, one staff member from every age group from 8 a.m. to cover early drop or 7:30 a.m. to cover early drop. And then one would have to stay every day until 6 o'clock. So it just didn't seem cost effective. We only had about 12 to 15 kids registered for more so extended day than early drop off. And we didn't think it was worth the risk to try and figure that out. We'd rather maximize and perfect the full day and not worry so much about that extra hour in the morning or the afternoon.
Well, good luck and amazing logistics planning. Congratulations so far.
So in the morning of the 29th.
Yeah.
I should have opened with this, but I was on a conversation with the superintendent and the town manager last week, and the town manager gave us great credit in saying that he's on his regional calls with other town managers, and most towns, more often than not, towns are canceling their summer camp programs and canceling their swim operations.
Sure.
And he said right out of the gates, he said, you know, the recreation team came out and said, we're going to make this happen. We're going to put our efforts into this, and we're going to do that. And he said it was clear that you know, we were putting those efforts forward, and it was clear that the community was responding well to it. So, you know, it was good to hear that on that end. And, you know, we believe that if the state was going to allow it and give us the right guidelines, we were going to put every effort into making it happen and making recreation a value to Concord this summer. So I'll move on to White Pond. In moving on to White Pond, I'll go over a little bit of staffing, which kind of incorporates on all of those. The staff will all go through a self-check in the morning as well, same as the campers do before they come in. So that's summer camp, White Pond, Beatty, recreation team, everybody will do a self-check prior coming in before they even leave the house in the morning. And staff will also be encouraged to not come into work sick. Where in the past, you know, you've kind of been the trooper, so to say, if you come to work sick. If you don't come into work, if you call it a work sick, it's not going to be looked upon, and you will be getting paid for that if you are calling out sick. So they don't want to encourage people to come to the office or to any of the workforces with any of these symptoms, any of these signs. So there's some great staff protocols in place across the board for all the programs, and they kind of match up with what the town's doing across the board for the employees coming in. At White Pond, we've sold, well, for starters, for White Pond, it's going to be members only this summer. There'll be no guest of members. There'll be no day passes. There'll be nothing else except for members. So you have to be a member and members of your family. So the Kane family, if the four of us have a membership, we can't come and bring our next door neighbor with us. It has to be who is in our household. The second part of White Pond is it is a pre-reservation system. So we've identified 15 spots of land. They have to have 12 feet distance between each plot. So we measured them out, and we were able to come up with comfortably to at least start off 15 plots that we can reserve out. We did them in approximately 2 hour and 45-minute increments. So we have 3 rotations during the day. Some check-ins starting at 10, some starting around 1 o'clock, and some starting around 4 o'clock ballpark. And that means 45 families would be able to visit the pond on a day. We started those reservations. Our first day we opened is Saturday. So it's 4 days in advance that you can reserve those. We opened at 7 a.m. on, what was that, Tuesday, Andy? And we sold out of those 45 spots by about 8:30 a.m. So they're going pretty quick. We've sold out Saturday, Sunday, and we sold out Monday already, 45 households in each one of those days. We did have to go back through and kind of, as I said, we'll be tweaking these as we go along, and say that you can't book multiple times in a day, and you can't book multiple plots at a time. So we had people who came in and booked, 2 plots for their time period, or came in and booked, the 10 o'clock, the 1 o'clock, and the 4 o'clock rotations. So in order to move as many households through as we can, you're only allowed to get 1 reservation block per day. Additionally, part of that is, according to the guidelines, they want staggered times that people show up. So for example, at 10 o'clock, 4 households can come down. At 10:15, 4 more households can come in. 10:30, 4 more households come in. 10:45, 4 more households come in. And then they'll leave on those type of intervals as well. So it will constantly be a flow of people coming and going, as opposed to a line of people at the gate trying to get in at 10 o'clock. That's one of the things they were trying to avoid. Another thing they were trying to avoid was just transactions. So members do not need a pass. So we have all the data, all the information all in our computer system. The Kane family comes down, they go to their block, they get there for their time. Somebody from the staff is going to come up, welcome them at their spot as they sat down and just say, Kane family, welcome here. Who do we have here with you today? And we'll say our members that we have there, and they'll check them off that they're there. And then they'll just kind of go over some of the guidelines that we have for the facility. What else at White Pond? We've already booked 3 days. We've already heard back negatively from some people that just because people can't get in, we froze the memberships at 520 households. So if we could only allow 45 households per day, that's 90 in a weekend, and we have 520 households. So there's people who aren't getting into the system right now and not being able to swim, where in the past they've been able to come down. As I gave you the numbers earlier, at 45 households with 5 people coming, I forget the exact number, it's like 230 people a day. Last year, we averaged maybe 140 people a day that would visit the pond. So it will allow for more people per day to visit, but we're also anticipating demand to be up much higher this summer because there's not many other options. People aren't traveling as much. So I think the demand for using the facility is going to be up comparably. And just the comfort of looking outside and saying, today looks like a good White Pond day. I want to go down to the beach. Well, you would have had to have booked it 4 days before that. So you really lose a element of that comfort. We'll have some challenges, I think, managing it in that, as I gave the example, I don't know if maybe this won't happen to us. Maybe we'll sell out every single day. But if there's empty spots and you're a member, you just can't come in and go use that empty spot. You have to pre-reserve. You could pre-reserve if the spots are available up to, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm doing these off the top of my head, 9 o'clock the night before for the morning rotation, which is the 10 o'clock things, and up to what
like
time?
noontime the same day.
So noontime the same day for the afternoon and the evening rotation. So if there's any empty blocks, you could still book up to noontime that same day. But you just can't walk down at 4 o'clock and say, oh, there's an empty spot on the beach, I'm going to go use that. And again, that just is following the guidelines as to how they want it. They do not want a rush of people coming down and trying to find the empty spots on the beach. They want us to be able to know who's coming and when they're coming and be able to track through that.
So similar to the camp things, if you could just give us, I mean, this is a lot of data that you're giving us verbally, Ryan. We can't absorb it all, just so we have it just in case. And just, we need to know that you're complying with whatever rules necessary. Board of Health, has they approved the opening yet?
Yeah, Board of Health has approved us opening White Pond. They haven't approved the camp yet. That's happening next week. And Beatty would be down the road.
Right.
They get their hands full with the restaurants simultaneously. So what I'll do, Peter, is I'll send out an email and I'll attach where the links are on the web pages.
Perfect.
So you can have it all compiled right in there. And so you could forward to someone if someone says, what are they doing at White Pond? Right. Here, look here, click this link. It's going to send you right to what's happening at White Pond.
That's even better. That's great.
So, Ryan, you said it's filling up pretty fast, the reservations. Do you have a sense of how many people are getting turned away or it's just filled up and unable to reserve? Because there's 520 households. A number of people probably just, unless they get up at whatever, 2 minutes after opening. It's like Ticketmaster.
Yeah. So we're going to evaluate it on a consistent basis. We just had a meeting today to talk, and we talked about the time because that was one of the issues that came up. Some people were saying, 7 o'clock, I'm not up and at it. By the time I get up and at it, it's sold out. And then we're also looking at people saying, well, I got to go into work or I got to start work at this time. How do I manage through that? So we're trying to do that. We haven't put together a waitlist system, but that's something that I think we'd be entertaining. So that because we also need to put out a clear cancellation system. So if the Kane family books it 4 days in advance and decides that we're going to cancel, how do we go about and communicate that cancellation to the recreation office? And then how do we have a wait list so that we can contact the next person down on the list? That was still not necessarily help us fully, Paul, because once you get to about 10 or 12 on the wait list, I think
Yeah.
people are going to say, forget it. I'm not going to go on the wait list because 12 people aren't going to cancel in the next 4 days.
Yeah, is a lottery system just too complex and out of the question? Something.
It's not out of the possibility. The problem is just if you hit a lottery and the Kane family hits it for Saturday and we're not interested in going on Saturday.
Well, I mean, you know, if there are 200 people that sign up for a certain day, you know,
Yeah.
to select a subset of that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that may be something we you know, like I said, we'll be evaluating as we go through this and like in learning as we go through this as to
Sure.
what's the best system and how it works to best be fair. And it might be that the Kane family can't book 2 days in a row. You know, that might be a starter that we do. You know, I don't know exactly what it is, but I think we'll have everything on the table as we're looking at it.
Sure.
And just to cover some of that feedback that we're getting from membership, there's quite a few out there that just want a small piece of time and not necessarily, we'll say, the social piece that goes with being on the beach and hanging out. So we do have an opportunity, you know, certainly after week one, sort of get through this and learn some lessons to say, okay, where can we put up additional spots that are, we'll say, more friendly just to the one adult that wants to come down there and just do a quick dip, sort of see a crowd, but doesn't necessarily need to be there that whole period of time. I mean, there's plenty of woods there. There's some, you know, areas to work with. And I think if we had an opportunity to expand that reservation space slots, that's going to be the big win.
Mm-hmm. That's another component that we're trying to educate. So someone was on the beach and was like, I love shade. What am I going to do if I go to book a plot and it's only in the sun? I said, you're not stuck to your plot. You just need to social distance when you get outside of it. So if you want to get your spot that you reserved and your time that you reserved and grab a camp chair and go back a little deeper into the woods and be under the trees and be social distance from people, then that will be fine. And I think, as Andy said, I think we're really evaluating how we add number of households per day and get it from 45 to 55 to 60 is going to be a big benefit. So you may take some of those 2 hour and 45-minute blocks and split them in half because some of the people may only be interested in coming down and jumping in the lake.
I think at some point the public needs to be aware how complicated this all is. White Pond, the camp. You know, this is nothing to be taken for granted. You know, it's not the issue right now, but boy, this is amazing service to the town.
I have 2 small questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, does the state provide any guidance on how to like clean the bathrooms, which could be a big pain, but.
Yeah. So for all outdoor bathrooms and even the bathrooms at the programs, there's a strict cleaning protocol and products that you must use, et cetera, for using that and doing that. So there is a protocol for that and guidelines for that. They're great. I mean, they're good, but it's not overextensive. So I think we'll even be pushing beyond that, beyond what those guidelines say.
Okay. And my other small question was just going to White Pond the past couple of years. I know that it's common that people leave their beach toys, the kids' beach toys there, and there's a little like lost and found box, which is great in years past. I wouldn't even take a bucket or a shovel and we would just use that. But now with COVID, I mean, do you throw them out at the end of the day or?
Everything at the end of the night's going in the dumpster.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it's also going to be a take in, take out. We have the dumpster at the top so people can bring their own trash and drop it off there. But we'll still have a trash barrel hidden so staff can tuck things in and overnight we'll pull it out so that as people show up overnight, trash goes in a barrel as opposed to on the beach. But during the day, the point again is they talk about transactions or interactions, and they don't want staff emptying barrels like crazy and doing all that type of stuff. So the more we can do that take out type of environment will be beneficial. But we just talked today and we were talking about the toys that end up there. And unfortunately, if toys are left there, they're going in the dumpster.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard summer to have lost and found. Anything that's left is going to, unless it's something that's valuable to the common person, I guess, valuable to your 3-year-old might be a tough story, but a cell phone left behind is going to go in a lost and found.
Yeah, I think people understand that. I mean, makes sense.
Moving on to the visitor center. And I'm going to start, but definitely jump in whenever you want. Visitor center is going to open with a kind of soft opening this Monday. They're not going to be marketing it out to people and kind of be able to make adjustments and play along as they go through. They are going through social distancing guidelines and protecting the staff. This Saturday, we're installing at all our front desk, BD Hunt Visitor Center and 55 Church Street, the plexiglass system so that the staff will be behind the sneeze guards and have the transaction ability to go underneath the counter, similar if you go to a grocery store or Home Depot type of concept. It'd be one family in the visitor center at a time. Outside the visitor center, we have the marketings outside that's like wait here and wait here, you know, the 6-foot distancing. And we did kind of set a kiosk up outside so that people can kind of self-serve themselves a little bit better and grab things if they don't want to wait around to get the service from inside the visitor center. The staff will have masks on in the visitor center. The restrooms will be open. They'll be following the restroom protocols for cleaning of the restrooms. Anna, am I missing anything? Oh, we're not doing tours out of the gate.
Right. Yeah, we're going to hold off on tours for right now and just see how it goes with people coming in and out. One of the big challenges that Beth's running into right now is 6 out of her 11 staff aren't comfortable coming back. Most of them are in one of the at-risk age groups. And so they're choosing to not come back right now. So she's shifting around a little bit to try and get some shifts covered. We usually do 4-hour shifts. So now we're going to be looking at full day shifts and figuring out how to provide lunch breaks for people. So pros and cons to that. Certainly you get in the flow when you're there for a full day. So that's nice. And a couple of the people that are coming back were people that always wanted to do a full day. So no complaints on anybody's end, but it is just too bad. Some of our regulars who've been there for years won't be coming back right now. Hopefully, you know, maybe later this summer or in the fall if things change, but that's the big stuff. Beth also has been patiently awaiting the renovations at the visitor center. And those are finally well enough done that she can get all of her new merchandise stuff hung up. Her office space will be upstairs in the visitor center when that's completely finalized. So lots of good changes that were going to happen anyways that make a lot of sense now with all of this going on as well, which is good. So there'll be a restroom, things like that. So Beth's been really great. And like Ryan said, we'll be getting the desk barriers up and stuff this weekend, and she'll be ready to go on Monday.
Will she have the list of all of the restaurants that have their open space dining and everything for people to know?
Yeah, so Beth's been sitting on, what's it called, Ryan? The Business Task Force in Concord, Economic Vitality. So she's been in touch with pretty much every business in Concord and has supported people best she could throughout this whole process. So yeah, she's very in tune with what's open, what amenities are open at the different historic sites, if any, things like that. So she's really in tune with what the rest of the community is doing.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Beatty?
Everybody knows more about what's happening with the local businesses than Beth. And Stephen has kind of charged her as we've been going through this as
Right.
an opportunity for her to kind of jump in and show her value of really working with the local businesses. So now the question is how do I get her to pull her back a little bit as we get moving forward, but we'll figure that
Okay.
out. Andy, you want to jump on BD Center?
Yeah, office staffing has ramped up this past week. Each of us got in the office 2 times, which is twice as much as the week prior. Looking forward to more office access next week. Really important to get eyes on the facility, eyes on each other, all helpful stuff. Still looking at phase 3 from the governor and pending the town manager, an opening date of Monday, June 29th. With that said, we are delaying some of our programming. Aquatics will certainly be a different look with, less, no group lessons, we'll say, less opportunities for some programming. But, rolling that out a little bit on the late side, July 20th is that date. That's also the date that will go to group exercise, in-person classes. Again, trying to give membership and all a chance to get comfortable into the facility. recognize that some good things are in place. They can safely exercise, go about their business with some of the routines that they've done in the past. Connecting with membership with a MyRec message tonight continues to be, get to your account, check it out, make sure it's accurate, that your email is correct, and that you understand the process. As Ryan shared earlier, the MyRec reservations with White Pond can be challenging. You got to get through it. You got to learn a little bit. So hopefully people can just see that site a little bit more. We've set up a lot of those sites independent for people as we transferred over to membership in January. So some people might have just seen their password come by their way and really don't know much about the area. So we're hopeful that continued messaging over the last couple months will reinforce it's upon us. You really need to understand it well. We're looking to do a little bit more of a formal, the nuts and bolts type of email early next week. And with it set up the 29th, we'll highlight our reduced occupancy in regards to spaces, some of the requirements in regards to reservations and how to go about that. The membership plan currently will, start charging members when they walk in day one, versus the ones that aren't with us will be on pause for a period of time. We don't know if that pause is going to be till September 1 or something, but we certainly want to give people a little bit of time to get comfortable and recognize that we can be an asset for them. If it happens to be the fall, then so be it. We also want to highlight just some of those front desk changes. Ann has been working with the plexiglass vendor. They came our way as well. So optimistic that is a nice reinforcement, positive thing for members and staff. And with that, just different. That front desk has been so social in the past. It's just going to be a different experience for everyone moving forward. But hopefully we can turn it into a positive as well. Just touching on some classes, our online group exercise, we went right out of the gate, or 2 weeks into it with daily signups, and that went okay. We got in front of some people. Our instructors were engaged. It was sort of a little bit of a loss revenue piece. Since we rotated over to a 6-week mini session, 7 out of those 10 classes are running. And with it, we're seeing some positive revenues on that front. So it's not, the bread and butter programming, we'll say, but it certainly establishes us as far as there is options for people. Run with this for a bit. Hopefully we see you in person this summer. If not, it sets us up for hopefully a more robust fall, which starts for us on September 14th when it comes to programming. We also have one of our part-time trainers doing some more personal training online, so more and more people are engaging. So that's been great. We could continue the phone calls from Maureen, which is a star worker in the morning. She has literally touched base with hundreds and hundreds of members, and with it, 99.9 is what her quote was, are positive. Great that they received an outreach that is so personal from Beatty. She's also a great talker, so nice to have her employed with that task. What else on the facilities front? Worth highlighting a bunch of things. We've had 12 vendors plus Compass, our current vendor, tour the facility for our next round of RFP. And with it, Compass is wrapping up their 3-year contract, so we need to go into another bid process.
RFP.
Pardon me?
This is for the cleaning RFP.
Yep, sorry about that.
Yep.
So the world of cleaning is upon us, and with it, those bids are due on June 25th with a start date for that vendor of August 1st. We are going to employ Compass on the short term, so they're going to be back with us on June 24th for a mini session is right before we reopen, and then our robust and certainly normal session starting on the 29th for the month of July. So a little bit of a transition period. Who knows who comes our way, but excited to see that maybe some pricing improvements happen, but these time and age, probably not. There's probably more on their plate than they had in the past. Other things to highlight, we secured a little over $62,000 from the Sawyer Trust Fund. That was related to capital improvement projects on the energy efficiency side. The key things being HVAC on the rooftops, to, hot water tanks in the back room. So that was a great push by, finance and Carrie and Kate Hodges and company. Certainly Ryan Orr and this facilities crew were huge supporters. So nice that sort of came through. It'll be a bit of a help, absolutely. Other things happening are got revenues to, from Article 21 that we've had in our account related capital to purchase hands-free faucets. We've got 3 installed in the building right now. That was a little bit of a test this past fall. Moving forward with the rest of the sinks in the building, I think it'll be, great timing. Not sure exactly when they're going to get installed. A lot on the facilities plate, but just to have that purchase done now means we're ready for the near future. Had Public Works come our way and install a couple new trees. So anyone coming through our top main gate will be pleased to see a little more Mother Nature there. Covers up some of that ugliness, a little bit of challenging space at times. Maybe the biggest news is we had a VFD vendor, which operates the pool mechanics as far as chlorine and whatnot. Got us back in good order on Monday. So our lap pool is a little rough for the last month, but it's perfect and gorgeous right now. I think all that come into our building are going to be surprised, going to be happy. We obviously need to sell a lot of this and communicate well, but more on our plate, and everyone's really looking forward to it. We've seen a couple little member faces once in a while, just through the glass or meet out in the parking lot or whatnot, and it's just really cool to see them. So I think it's going to be a win-win between members and staff, just re-engaging in the very near future.
Great. Thanks for the update, Andy.
That's good.
Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, just about the online classes, like you're running them now, and it sounds like it's working well for some people. I'm just curious if there's elderly enough population, people who are at risk who might want to continue doing those online classes and not do in person. Are you going to continue the online classes throughout the summer? Or?
Yeah, great point, because we typically lose a degree of population anyways in the summertime because they get to go to their houses or they have travel or whatnot. We also don't have an opportunity for hunt this summer based on them being certainly more controlled and paying attention to the camp season. So it looks like we are going to probably do a combination of it. We're going to have some of our instructors that will be excited about doing both. So doing both of those and having a program out there that still pays for itself. We want to break even. We want to provide an opportunity, but we do see that we'll probably have a dual approach come July 20th as far as an opportunity to both do in-person and online.
Give credit on the finances. The finance team, Kerry LaFleur, worked hard on that Sawyer Trust to get Andy that $60K plus, and she also pulled up the old BD endowment for approximately $25K this year and $25K next year of capital, which would have been coming out of our fund balance, but will be coming from the BD endowment instead.
Great. Okay, let's we still have a fair amount to cover. Let's try to kind of accelerate the effort here.
So parks came online in phase 1, and youth sports came on in phase 2. So the public parks are, for the most part, open and operating. The ride-out restrooms are open. The playgrounds came on in phase 2 as well, but the rims are on the basketball courts. The tennis nets were, the tennis courts were unlocked and reopened, and people were using the track all throughout and just walking the parks all throughout. I think they're great community assets and community resources. You see high use of them. The track is getting a real lot of use. So it's just a good location for the community to get out and utilize. I know that's one of those things when you go back through, the Rec Commission report originally, just before I got here, we talked about public park spaces and looking at that and trying to quantify and value those. And I think in a time like this, it's magnified as to how important it is to have those spaces for people to get out and utilize those. With that, we've been working with Little League. That Little League is back in action. They're doing skills. They cannot play games. They have tight guidelines as well. So I worked with Phil Gibson, the director of Little League, and they need to be reporting to us, everybody that shows up to the fields. We need to be getting the defined schedule, where in the past I would say Little League has the field on Saturday. I now need to know that Team A is on the field at this time and who's on Team A, and Team B is on the field at this time and who is on Team B. So he's given me a weekly update with a report of their schedule for that. And they have to have a COVID-19 plan in place and posted to their participants as well. Youth soccer has come to us. They're looking to start doing some tryouts type of things. I haven't heard, they're real close. I thought they were going to be starting this week, and I haven't heard back from them, which is making me think they ended up in Carlisle, because they were looking at potentially going to Carlisle to utilize some space there. But there's the possibility for those things to be happening. They need to be working through our office for us to okay them to be able to come back and to know that they have a COVID-19 plan in action and understand what the guidelines call for. In future phases, they'll expand upon what they're able to do, whether it goes to games or not. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But we've been working with the Little Leagues, et cetera, on that. A couple of notes just on the parks. Emerson Park construction is still kind of happening a little bit right now. It's hard to make things happen through this time, but it sounds like the spray pad will be down this summer at Emerson for the construction, which I'm sure is going to be a public, perspective and public look at that. And that's, but that's being managed through Public Works. They have good reasoning for why it's got to be down and how they're managing through that. But when they told me that right away, I was like, ooh, that's going to hurt.
Well, it's probably not a good thing to be open this time, So.
Yeah, I don't even know the guidelines on spray parks. There are guidelines on spray parks. I haven't looked at it because they told me they were closing it, so I didn't bother going through those guidelines.
I noticed there's a spray park open in Boston, but
yeah,
I don't know why. I mean, that's like that's a COVID accident waiting to happen. So.
I don't have anything else on parks. Anybody got any questions on the parks?
Okay, let's keep going here.
On facility updates, White Pond, we're still working through with the master plan to go ahead and put that together. So that has already been contracted, but we've been working with that group. They would be looking to have public hearings at some point in time. So we're kind of slowing it down a little bit to kind of play out how we do the public hearings for that. Again, the White Pond work is really talking about ADA accessibility and stormwater management. So when you're talking about the changes at White Pond, it's not going to be anything that's all that grand and fantastic when you look at it. It will be a lot of money that's spent on getting accessibility down to the waterfront and making sure that all that stormwater that rushes down that hill isn't ending up in the lake, which is currently happening. So they'll be putting in, all the detention basins and all that fun jazz that when you hear the numbers, you go, we got what? We got a detention basin for that. But that's kind of slowing down a little bit, and we'll let you know when public hearings are coming and when drafts are coming out with that. The Giroux property.
Sorry, really quick, about White Pond. So I went there last weekend with my family just to go to the water really briefly in the morning and the weekend. And I noticed this really foul smell. And I just thought, oh, maybe a pond smell. So I walked, whatever, we were there for a little, very short. We walked back, and then I heard a woman heard me talking to my husband about White Pond, and she mentioned that she heard one of the homes that are right on the pond, their cesspool overfilled and like dumped into the pond. And she said she called the town on that. So I was just curious, the validity of that. Did you hear anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about it at this time of year. There's a couple of things that could typically smell up there. One is the pollen washes up the shore and almost rots away up on the shore. And that it definitely has a nasty smell to it. The other thing that does have the smell to it is the blue-green algae. When the blue-green algae is present in the pond, does have that almost a similar smell to that. I have no idea. There's kind of little infights that happen within the neighbors that are around there about if people are managing their septic systems and not managing their septic systems. And, we'll get a call every once in a while that somebody had a party with 60 people there and how can their septic system manage it? And I'm like, That's not the recreation director's job. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if it would come to me unless it came to me as we need to close the beach because, but I will tell you, Jim, we get the beach tested weekly and the test just came back the other day. So they're testing for E. coli, basic bacteria that happen in there, and we're safe and swimmable facility. So
Okay.
I would think if that's happening, you would be getting some of those numbers churning up.
Yeah, sorry, I had to ask because I was just curious about it. And we didn't get sick, so we were there just for 5 minutes. But
Going for us.
okay, thank you.
Good. So Giroux is a lot closer. Anna, will you be let me share the screen?
What's that?
I'm asking Anna to let me share the screen.
I can never figure out how to do that. How do I?
Welcome, Casey.
AC.
Any idea? Ryan, do you remember how I do that? Oh, security. Hold on. Here we go. All right.
Are you guys able to see my screen with the
Not
drill
yet.
plan?
Nope.
No.
No. Okay. Share screen. How about now?
There you go.
Looks
Okay.
like it's.
Now it's working.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so this is where we're at on the Giroux plan. And I just kind of wanted to walk through some of the things that are going on. So, and where we're at financially, I got to find Kate's email to me on this. And I will grab it in a second, but if we have approached or we've been meeting with National Resource Commission and going through, and this is the plan that's gone forward to them. And you can see we've kind of scaled back on the approach to the waterfront as you come along this path, these paths here. Those initially were a lot closer to the waterfront. And in working through with Natural Resource Commission, they wanted them pulled back away from the waterfront. We still do have access to the waterfront down through there, which is intended for a future boat launch to occur down there. The next steps for Giroux would be going at town meeting. At where Giroux stands right now for financials, I just kind of want to give you this, is it has an estimated cost of $1.9 million. There's currently $1.2 million available. That's from the capital budget project for fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. From CPC funds for fiscal year 20. In $200,000 from CPC in fiscal year 20. That would give it to that number. They're hoping to receive an additional $500K from CPC for fiscal year 21, which will be used for the bathroom facility and associated walkways and connections to the Bruce Freeman Trail. So that's around the 1.7 there. They were looking to go out and bid this to construction in the fall in 2 different phases, phase 1 and a phase 2, depending on the funding's coming in and depending on the prices coming back for that. I know right now there's a lot of talk that at town meeting, the capital projects and what's spent on capital projects are going to be a big discussion point that occurs at town meeting. And I don't want to even go through and force a concept through with the rec commission. But what I did want to discuss is just why the town was moving forward on some of these things is what we're hearing from the vendors right now is that the construction costs are down by about 30% at this time because the construction work crews are looking to get the work. And when they're going out to bid and getting their numbers back, they're 30% what their budgeted numbers were or what their anticipated numbers were. And so certainly looking to maximize upon that and get more bang for our buck out of the dollars. And the second component that we're looking forward to moving forward with this is one of the common questions we receive is when will we be able to use Giroux? We bought that property, when will we be able to use that? So I know things have changed, but that's something that I think is a worthwhile conversation at town meeting as to whether the community wants to make this spot up and open and accessible to the community, or right now it is not accessible to the community. And so we're sitting on a town resource that isn't accessible. And so I don't know, and I just, something we want to show to the commission, want you guys to feel out. I think we have time before town meeting to really decide if we wanted to put a statement together on this or not. But I want to at least start the conversation here with you today. I'm also going to have a conversation on July 1st with the West Concord Advisory Committee to show them this again. They've seen this before, but just talk about that we anticipate this coming up as or capital projects as a whole coming up as contested projects at the town meeting.
So,
I wanted to show this. I wanted to give you some availability to look at it. Also ask any questions about the Giroux facility. Peter, I could share this with the team as well. So this is something that if people ask questions about, and I'll share the numbers I just gave you.
so Ryan,
Yep.
what is being asked at the town meeting? Is there an approval for appropriation for funds for Giroux? What's the warrant say?
Well, the warrant is for all the capital projects, all combined, which includes Giroux. I don't have the exact amount that's coming out for this year. I'll get you that number. And then also there'll be a warrant for CPC funds.
Okay.
Two different
So,
warrants that will be on.
Odds are there's going to be a citizens that's going to say, I want to take out the Giroux property and have that as a separate.
Yeah, it's sounding like it's definitely going to, capital projects is going to be a discussion as a whole, whether it's
Mhm.
individualized, pointed out, or if it's going to be an entire package. I don't know that.
I mean, you're always going to get people who have, complaints about it. I mean, what's the overall consensus in terms of I think this is an important, element to the town. We've been advocating for doing this for a long time. I won't speak for everybody, but it's a good thing. I think we should be looking at a letter of support, but I assume most others are doing the same. Obviously, CPC's approved money, so CPC is. What about other groups within the town?
Well, I think just to start on the overall perspective, the select board and town manager keep saying to move forward with it. So that's the direction we're getting. They keep saying move forward with it.
At the CPC, Ryan, the Giroux project, if I remember correctly, was the #1 priority of the town. We were given a list of priorities when we started that process. So
yeah, at least on the recreation end, it was the #1 priority. I don't
no,
know.
it was the #1 priority of either the board of selectmen, select board, or the town manager. I can't remember, one of the two.
Yeah. Good. All right, I'll figure that out and get that back to the table to us. And again, I look at it as we go through these times, we see the value of Ride Out in Emerson and how much people are out using those spaces. The sooner we can make another space available for the community would be a benefit, in my opinion. Now, I'm the rec director, so obviously I usually have that perspective. I get a little bit of a tainted look at it. But I think there's a huge value to it. There definitely is like I said, a group looking at capital projects as a whole. And so White Pond, Giroux, Emerson Park, as they look through all of them, I think I don't know if they'll be isolated, Peter, and I don't know if we'll know till the night of. They might pull up on a question on the warrant and say they want to remove Giroux out of capital projects. So
That's how it usually works.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before. So but they have to get the appropriate votes to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly a natural synergy with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. I mean, that the bridge over Route 2 is kind of going forward, according to Marsha Rasmussen. So that whole area is going to become a recreational gem.
Yeah.
It really is. So really makes sense to move forward with that kind of synergy, I think.
So I think what I can do is get you more information in between. Does anybody know when town meeting is? I forget it right now off the top of my head. It's bounced around so many times.
sometime in September.
We
Yeah.
have time.
I think it's in September.
So we'll be back at the table before then. So what I'll do is I'll get more information to the commission in between, and then it would be up to you guys to take a look at it and see if that's something that you want to, write a letter of support for, or potentially speak at town meeting and benefit of, if it's that contested.
Okay,
It seems the vibe coming to town hall is that it's going to be contested.
well, I'm prepared to do my last salvo as the, and talk at town meeting and walk into the
Sunset.
sunset. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Don't walk into the sun.
That too.
Sorry, Ryan, I'm sort of coming in a little late here. Just remind me, in terms of the funding for the Giroux property, that's something that's within our budget. Is that correct?
It's not in the recreation budget. It is in the town capital projects budget. So combination of last fiscal year and this coming fiscal year, which would be approved at town meeting.
So from my understanding, I think the League of Women Voters is putting forward a letter that they've already put to the select board that is proposing just like a stop on all town capital. I believe, and I need to go back and check, and that would be within their sort of bailiwick to just sort of put a halt on things and then review. So I think, Peter's right that it's probably going to be called out. So maybe the rec commission does a letter that says, given the circumstances, we support it, but understand that, it's within a larger context of the town priorities.
Yeah, what's the basis for, what the basis for their wanting to stop it? I mean, tax dollars are still coming in. It's,
I don't think it's necessarily just Giroux. I think just in general, they want to take, like, given the new landscape that we're in, taking, reviewing what the capital projects are and putting things, setting sort of a status of what's most needed. That would be my guess. So this is sort of secondhand information. So I think, Peter, your instincts are right that it will be something that's called out at town meeting.
Yeah. Okay. We should prepare accordingly.
So like I said, for the next meeting, I will have, prior to as much information as I can get you guys for that, so that you can, if we go to pull something together, we can pull from that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else on Giroux? And like I said, I'll send that draft over to you and try to get the numbers over to you as well, so that if it comes
Thank
up and starts to become public discussion, it's something you can share with people.
Great.
Or share a link if we have it up and running on our site. Emerson Pool, we've been chasing a leak around. It looked like Caddyshack at Emerson Pool last week, where he was chasing the gopher around. They have fixed the leak. They have backfilled. They have concreted. We're filling the pool with water tomorrow. We are anticipating that we will be open in time for summer camp, which, if you looked at the pool last week, you would have thought there's no way we were going to open in time for summer camp. So all good news there. Knock on wood. Seems like we keep running into Murphy's Law, but maybe things are starting to line up for us right now. Looking good there, and we're very hopeful for a good summer, because the kids are going to need that element. You don't have the field trips. You're wearing masks. You got to have a little bit of being a kid, and getting in the pool and being able to swim is going to be a plus. So.
Yeah, according to our president, chlorine actually helps. So
You have to swallow it.
Now that what was it?
yeah, swallow it.
I forget what that drug was, but whatever that was.
Right.
On the fall winter programming, we've had some great discussions with Lori Hunter in the last week. We started off with summer camp. She came back to us and said, it's evident to me that I can't be talking about a plan moving forward without talking about childcare, and I need to have you guys at the table. So we are going to be sending her some mock drafts for some brainstorming, and then having a conversation next week with the superintendent's office, town manager's office, and talking about how recreation will be involved in that, from our traditional after school and before school programming to if school looks different next year, how can recreation potentially be a part of that to assist? So I think everything's on the table right now, but we're the ones invited to the table, which is good news. I'd had conversations with her about hosting the after school programs at the schools previously, and she remembered that. She was asked by a private organization recently to come in and host after school at the schools, and she said she would defer to Ryan Kane as having the first opportunity to doing that, which was great. So we'll be at the table with them in the next week and really talking about how we can help out with the different options that school might look like, and what we could come up with for plans. So we'll keep you updated as we go along. But that was one of those I said in the beginning that I could almost see rec going one of two different ways. Like, I don't think basketball and skiing are going to be the same as we move forward, but the childcare model might blow up on us in the next year, because it's just going to be so different and so hard for some households to be able to find somebody if their kid's at school every other day, who's watching their kid every other day. So we'll see how it plays out, and I'll just keep you updated as we go through. I just kind of talked about a lot of our traditional programs. We're going to, I think right now we're putting together our fall winter brochure as is, but we got to really take a hard look at what are our alternatives, because, we're not just, I don't want to not put ski out there and not think about potentially taking ski registrations down the road. But at the same time, it's not looking like ski is going to happen in the winter. So what other alternatives can we be offering for people so that we're not just canceling and not providing things? And I think, I had a great conversation with the carousel teachers and the other day in the parking lot of Harvey Wheeler, and we were talking through some things. And I think we have a lot of lessons to be learned about how we manage through this. As I said to them, I said, by no means do I think we were perfect as we managed through this. And they right away said, like, we need to have solutions for carousel for the fall. So like, if this happens again in the fall, we're ready to jump to plan B, and we could start doing different things and providing people with a real good experience. And how do we get ahead of that? So it's not just carousel, it's everything that we go across. So because basketball doesn't mean we don't run basketball in a different style. It doesn't have to be teams playing against each other and full court pressing. We might be doing clinics with smaller group of kids, 3 or 4 kids after school or on Saturdays or something like that. So it's really more private instruction type of component that's going on. But kids shouldn't go through an entire winter without dribbling a basketball. We should find a format that we can pull that off. So that's really going to be a hard challenge for the rec team as we move forward, because part of that challenge is going to be, we're going to be managing through a crazy summer at White Pond and camp and Beatty. But we'll pull it off. I get confidence in the team. And we'll be looking forward to putting things out on the table.
Great. Excellent. Obviously, we'll be talking about those as the meetings going forward as we approach those times. But okay, excellent. Reports from liaisons. Linda's not on the call, I assume. FYI, at the chair breakfast, I indicated, all the things that we just discussed. Ryan, Linda was on the call, chair breakfast call, and I did mention that we voiced our concern about why we have to pay the town transfers, and that, we want that to be appealed to the town select board and manager. So we'll see where that goes. CPC, Paul? Yeah.
We had our last meeting, I think, Tuesday night, which is why I couldn't meet here on Tuesday. And this topic of funding of the parks projects has come up, and I'm not really privy yet. I know the chairman's been sending letters of support to all of the projects that we approved, but I think there's definitely some pushback on some of the things that we approved money for. But I don't have any details. So just that, I wish I could build on what you guys were talking about earlier, but I don't really know yet what's going on. So I know we reaffirmed as a committee, we reaffirmed our support for all the things that we approved for this most recent fiscal year. And I know that the chairman, John Kratzley, has gone to the FinCom and the select board with that position that we have, but I don't know where it's going from there. I really don't know where the pressure's coming from exactly. It's kind of going on offline, so that's the update from the CPC.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. In terms of any other updates, we don't have any public input, I guess, or old business we want to talk about next meeting.
My gut, Peter, would be to change it a little bit and do it in early August, because the superintendent said she's going to be releasing her plans July 31st. I'm hoping we're a little privy to those plans prior to that, but I don't know if we'd be releasing what we're doing prior to her releasing what she's doing, because it might let the cat out of the bag. So I'm almost thinking we wait till she releases. Casey, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that when she plans to release, or is that when the task force ends, July 31st? You're on mute. You're the one.
Sorry. That's a good question. So my guess is that that's when the task force ends, and you might want to coordinate directly with her.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily know. That's a good question, because some of the things may be in place before then. And Ryan, are you guys on any of the working groups, or is she just working with you sort of sidebar?
Just working with a sidebar.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a hard gauge, Peter. I think she would probably wait to release everything till the task force are done. But that's late. I mean, to tell parents that on August 1st, what they're going to be doing at the end of August. So do we want to do like August 11th? That makes sure that we, by August 11th.
That'd be preferred for me anyways. I'm on vacation the week before, so.
Okay.
So August 11th.
School year should be out. We should know what's happening with that. We'll be able to prepare for town meeting September. And that would also give us time if we felt we need to meet again before the town meeting. We all of a sudden see that it's a big hot button and things are going crazy, and we feel like that it's worthwhile to have another meeting before town meeting, then we could do so.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Works for me.
Yep.
Good.
Good.
August 11th, 7 p.m. again.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's going to be a Zoom again.
Yeah. And lots to talk about then, so we'll probably have to have at least an hour and a half of time allotted. But okay, great. Any other questions before we adjourn? No? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, guys. See you in a month and a half. Enjoy
Everybody,
your summer.
Okay.
All right,
See you
thanks,
around.
guys.
Thanks. Have a good
All right.
summer.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.